Good morning, everyone. Very hearty welcome to you all. This is the first webinar presented by CrypTogether on an introduction to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for beginners. Please note that this webinar is being recorded, and we kindly ask you that you keep your mics and cameras off for this session. All right, so just a welcome introduction. So a bit about the company, CrypTogether. We formed early this year, 2021, and our goal is really just to educate people out there, especially the absolute beginners, with just enough knowledge and confidence to start buying and trading in cryptocurrencies. So we aim to work together with our customers. We're not here to lecture you. We're here to work with you. We want to make sure that you're financially successful and that you also prosper. And I think one of the biggest issues we face, particularly in South Africa, keeping in mind that we do have some international attendees to this webinar, I think that cryptocurrencies are painted in a very negative light at the moment. There's so many scams out there and so much misinformation, even from the media, that people are very scared to get involved with cryptocurrencies. And we just want to assure you that if you're doing the right things and you do your own research and you listen to the professionals like CrypTogether, you're going to be absolutely fine and you're going to be financially successful. So what we offer, we have online courses. We also do one-on-one coaching, live webinars like this one. We also offer workshops which will be coming in the near future. And we also offer other educational services. We're on major social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram with the tag CrypTogether. And we'll also be launching our YouTube channel very shortly with this video. So about your presenter. So I'm Darren Stachman. I am the founder and the lead coach of CrypTogether. And I've been personally involved in the crypto space since 2017. I've also been actively trading, investing, and participating in ICOs, which are initial coin offerings, and the stock market for a good number of years now. My educational background, I have a MSc in molecular biology. I'm also a trained beer brewer and also have an MBA. In terms of my passions and hobbies, I'm really passionate about technology, finance, business, and science. So just before we continue, just have to share a disclaimer with you. So CrypTogether and our associates and affiliates, we provide only educational services and we do not provide financial advice nor legal advice. All of our content that we present to you, share with you, and teach are all for educational purposes, and it's used to be used as such. So nothing should be considered financial or legal advice. All of the investment products, vehicles, or platforms that we allude to and describe are invested in and used at your own risk. So please remember that cryptocurrencies are highly volatile, risky, and complex products, and due to wide price fluctuations, trading and purchasing them may result in significant loss over a short period of time. So this is just a disclaimer, but don't be alarmed. As I've told you earlier, with the right education, you're going to be absolutely fine. Also remember that options and leverage can work both to your advantage and disadvantage. And as a result, trading cryptocurrencies may not be suitable for all investors. And please do not invest money that you cannot afford to lose. Something very important when it comes to security of cryptocurrencies is the safety of seed phrases and private keys. There's a lot more about this in our course about what those are. But if you do come across these, please do not share them with anyone. You need to keep these very private and safe. Okay, now that we're done with the formalities, let's talk about what brings you here on the Saturday morning. So what are your goals? Surely there's some sort of hunger or need that you have that brings you to this webinar. And I think that a lot of that deals with or relates to finances. So maybe some of you relate to these. So a burning desire for financial success and prosperity. You want to get out of the rat race desperately and leave the 9 to 5 when you earn time back. You want to build generational wealth. Maybe you're interested in this new technology called blockchain, which I will be explaining. Maybe you've heard about cryptocurrencies, but you don't exactly know where to start. Maybe it seems a bit overwhelming. Maybe you've done some research, but you don't fully understand crypto. Maybe you've already been dabbling and you've had some bad experiences along the way. Maybe you're also afraid to lose money through inexperience or maybe all the scams that are out there. Maybe you've also realized that inflation, with continuous printing of money, actually makes your money worth less and less every day. Maybe crypto is the solution for you. Maybe you've also realized that this saving of a bit of your salary every month is not making a difference to your financial future. Maybe you need to invest instead and grow your money. If that's true, then crypto is also the thing for you. Okay, so why is crypto important? So change is inevitable. You need to adapt or be left behind. I believe that crypto is the next evolution of money. And if you look at over the last couple of millennia with mankind, money has been constantly evolving. So back in the day, people would trade goods or they would barter. They would try to find goods with equal value and they would trade that in that way. But it wasn't very practical. And then people started trading precious metals like gold and silver. And also that was a bit difficult to quantify. Then eventually people started minting this into a physical currency, like minting gold or silver coins. And that eventually progressed to the modern era where we have now a digital representation. There's still a physical currency, but a lot of the money transfer is actually done electronically through credit cards or banks or EFTs. So the next step is cryptocurrencies. And I'll obviously be discussing a lot of that. And something I want to just highlight, if you look to the diagram on the right, the Bitcoin adoption curve. So you can see this little Bitcoin on the roller coaster. We are early adopters. Everyone that buys Bitcoin in the next couple of months would be considered an early adopter. So these are people that are still going to benefit a lot from buying early. And companies that have got a lot of media attention for buying a lot of Bitcoin at this time are Tesla, Square, and MicroStrategy. And it's very clear that these people are going to benefit a lot from these early purchases. And blockchain can draw similar parallels to internet adoption in the late 90s or early 2000s. These internet companies that started in that time are highly successful today. Think about Amazon and Google, how successful they are. And blockchain is very similar. If you get involved in this now, you're going to benefit extremely in the next couple of years or decades. All right. So I think the message here is to get ahead of the curve. All right. Looking at the Bitcoin price since 2013, perhaps you've been following media. I mean, there's things you've heard that brought you here to this webinar. But Bitcoin in 2013, late 2013, was worth about $100 per Bitcoin. And I think the latest price is just under $40,000 per Bitcoin. So that's an increase or a return of 440,000%. I mean, that's phenomenal. These returns may still be available in the future. It's not too late to get involved. But ultimately, if you're just chasing the return of cryptocurrencies, that's fine. You're probably going to make a lot of money. But the underlying technology, blockchain, is what makes it so valuable. All right. I'm sure a lot of you use Twitter. Heard of Jack Dorsey? He's the CEO of Twitter. He's extremely bullish about Bitcoin. And just a reminder, I mentioned that there would be an ebook available from this webinar, free ebook. And that ebook takes the form of a crypto glossary that we developed. So a lot of the terms and the lingo and the jargon will actually be defined in that glossary. So I mentioned the word now, bullish. That means that there's a positive sentiment about a market increasing in price or a positive sentiment in the market. So Jack Dorsey believes that Bitcoin is positive and the price is going to increase going forward. So he recently said, for me, Bitcoin changes absolutely everything. What I'm drawn to most about it is its ethos, what it represents. The conditions that created it are so rare and so special and so precious, and I don't think there's anything more important in my lifetime to work on. So that's quite an important statement. I mean, he's the CEO of Twitter now. He wants to dedicate all his efforts into Bitcoin. And I know that Twitter are actually producing a hardware wallet that allows you to actually store your Bitcoin on that. And recently, he was also involved in another webinar along with Elon Musk and Cathie Wood. Elon Musk is considered one of the greatest engineering innovators of our time, and Cathie Wood, one of the greatest investors of our time. So maybe look that up, but it was a very successful webinar where everyone was extremely bullish about Bitcoin, and I think the future is looking very bright. Okay, just to summarize what we're going to be talking about in this webinar. So I want to go through something called the 3 rules of crypto, something that we developed. Then we will look into how money actually works, so you understand a couple of pointers there. Then I'll go into the technology around blockchain and Bitcoin. We'll also look at what cryptocurrencies actually are, then what Bitcoin is. I'll go over crypto exchanges briefly to allow you to understand how we're actually buying Bitcoin on Luno. And then I'll also show you some of our courses and our products. All right, the 3 rules of crypto. So the 3 rules of crypto. Number 1, never invest more than you are willing to lose. As I said in the disclaimer, it can be risky if you don't know what you're doing. So the message here is please don't go take a loan and go buy cryptocurrencies. Don't put all of your rent money into cryptocurrencies. Don't put your entire salary into cryptocurrencies. You should consider it an investment where people who invest don't do the same. They don't invest recklessly, because with every investment comes risk. That's true for stocks or bonds or property, and it's no different from crypto. Just the extra risk with crypto is that the market is still very young, it's unregulated, and as you know, there's a lot of scammers out there. So I think the risk is slightly elevated compared to traditional investment instruments. From the picture on the left, you can see this young gentleman holding a sign, Mount Gox, where is our money? So this relates to a massive crypto exchange based in Japan that was unfortunately hacked back in the day, and billions worth of Bitcoin were actually stolen from the exchange, and a lot of the users lost all their earnings. So you need to consider a worst scenario. If this does had to happen, how would you feel? And essentially, you need to be in a place where you think, okay, if tomorrow all of my Bitcoin is worth nothing, how will I feel? And you should feel maybe a little bit sad, but you shouldn't be suicidal, if you know what I mean. So just consider the risk when you invest in crypto, but never more than you're willing to lose. Rule number 2, no one knows what's going to happen. So there's a lot of people out there using technical analysis, or their best guess is telling you Bitcoin at the end of the year is going to be worth $100,000, or Bitcoin tomorrow is going to completely tank and be worth nothing. These people don't have crystal balls, all right? There are millions of people making predictions, and seldom are they right. Remember a phrase that I like to refer to is a broken clock is right twice a day. So a clock can be broken, but just because of the natural movement of time, it's going to be right twice a day. And another famous prediction I want to point to on the right is from John McAfee, who is the founder of McAfee Antivirus, very famous tech guru who unfortunately passed away recently. He made a prediction on Twitter. He said that within 3 years from his prediction in July 2017, that Bitcoin would be worth 500,000, and if not, he would eat his organ on national television. So he was very wrong on that one, and unfortunately he didn't have to be held to that commitment. So point number 3, rule number 3, it's a roller coaster, enjoy the ride. So perhaps you're familiar with a lot of news reports saying this day the price of Bitcoin is this, the next day it's that, it's taken this increase, it's had this plunge. The price is quite volatile of all cryptocurrencies at the moment, and that's because the market is very young, it's very, very volatile, and it's unregulated. So you need to consider it's a roller coaster. You're going to have these price swings, but you need to have the stomach to handle that, and you kind of just need to enjoy the ride. That's my message to you. Don't get too hung up on the price, but just consider that's part of the market. All right. So here's another quote. It's from Jesse Powell. He's the CEO of Kraken. Kraken is one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world. So he said, we've seen this over and over. Crypto is a roller coaster. You've got to be able to have an iron stomach to tolerate the ride, but the gains are massive for those that can handle it. All right. So that's our introduction. So let's go into how money actually works. So when you consider money, it is a medium of exchange. So you exchange that for goods and services. It's also a representation of value. For example, you may say certain goods or services are worth X amount of certain currency, And that's how you kind of evaluate goods and services with money. The money also allows for simplification and consistency of trade. As I mentioned earlier, if you just had to trade goods for goods and services for services, it makes it extremely difficult to get fair value and fair trade. Money also has a social and economic consensus. So as a society, we agree that we're going to use money to trade for certain things. And also economically, with the rest of the world, we agree that it's worth something and it allows the economy to flow. It's also a store of value mostly. So you have X amount of money today and you know tomorrow's kind of be worth the same thing. Like tomorrow you can buy today you can buy a loaf of bread, and tomorrow you can buy a loaf of bread with the same amount of money. So I say mostly because sometimes these things do change drastically overnight, and I will get to that. You also need to consider that money is centralized. So there's a central entity or institution that controls the monetary system, and they control all the decision-making power. Right, so in South Africa, that would be the South African Reserve Bank. And in the States, you would have the Fed doing that. And we also have to keep in mind that the government also plays a role when it comes to decision-making and power, mostly negative. But we know that certain governmental regulations or stances or laws can make the price of money fluctuate overnight, as we know, with a constant decrease in the value of the dollar over the past couple of years, and also the rand, unfortunately. And what's supposed to happen is that there's supposed to be rules and infrastructure in place to protect the value of our money. We know that isn't always the case. And money mostly takes a physical form, but it also comes in a digital form with credit cards and EFTs, etc. Okay, what is your money worth? A very important thing that needs to be said is the gold standard really determined the value of your money. So today we actually have a social and economic consensus which tells us that our money is worth something. But when printed money still evolved, when it evolved back in the day, especially with the dollar, there was something called the gold standard in place, which meant that every dollar that was printed was backed up by a certain amount of gold. You could actually take your dollars and you could go to the Federal Reserve and you could actually trade it for gold. So it was worth something, was backed up by something. But the gold standard was eliminated a few decades ago. So your money is not backed up by anything. And you kind of need to ask yourself, why would they do this? You know, it seems so risky, and actually devalues your money if it's not backed up by anything. It's literally just paper, and you believe that it's worth something. And that's how the economy runs. And if it was backed up by gold, it means you couldn't print more money than you had gold to back up. So that's probably a good reason why you want to eliminate the gold standard, is that you can keep printing money. And there's something called hyperinflation that I need to highlight. It's also related to something called quantitative easing or helicopter money. So you can imagine people throwing money out of a helicopter. I often see that sort of thing in movies. But what this essentially does is there's a lot more money chasing the same amount of goods, which means the value of your money decreases drastically. So if you look at Zimbabwe a few years ago, there was probably the most extensive case of hyperinflation the world's ever seen, where they ended up having $100 trillion notes, which was worth probably a roll of toilet paper, unfortunately. They printed so much money, it became worthless. And as you see in the world today, because of COVID and the slowing down of the economy, a lot of nations have started going to very low levels of hyperinflation, where they continuously print money. So there's no gold standard. Your money's not actually worth anything that you can trade for in the bank for gold. They keep printing money, so the value of your money is getting worth less and less every day. And that's actually why the value of the dollar is decreasing. So if the money that you have in your savings and investments are getting worth less and less every day, how do you get out of the system if our system is based around this fiat money, which is not backed by the gold standard? And I think one of the answer is to get out of money completely, going to a new form of currency called cryptocurrencies. Okay, just a couple of quotes and things I want to share with you guys so you can understand the situation where we're moving into cryptocurrencies. So I'm sure a lot of you know who Henry Ford is. He started Ford Motors, and essentially he was the core driving force between moving from horses to automobiles. So a famous quote from him, he said, "If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses." So if you had to look at a solution for inflation and hyperinflation in the monetary world, people would have still looked around evolving or fixing the current fiat money model instead of evolving and going to cryptocurrencies. So keep that in mind. Then I had mentioned earlier that cryptocurrencies now are like internet back in the day. So a quote from the newspaper on December the 5th, 2000, the article said, "Internet may just be a passing fad as millions give up on it." And looking back, this is actually just laughable. And I believe 20 years from now, we'll be looking at similar articles around cryptocurrencies. So very interesting to see. Okay, so let's get a little bit technical now. So what exactly is this blockchain thing? So the simplest way to describe blockchain is that it is a digital ledger. So I'm sure a lot of you are also involved in the banking industry and finance, or some of you teach it yourselves, so you may know what a ledger is. So a ledger is a system for capturing balances. So in this example here, you can see this is a snippet from a ledger where they've captured opening balances and payments and debits and credits, and then balances itself. So it records how much money is going in and out and how much is currently available. So if a blockchain is a digital ledger, it is just a digital version of what you're seeing on the screen. So considering a blockchain, you can literally think of it as a chain of blocks. So where each block is actually a transaction. So for example, here you may have on your ledger a debit of nearly 14,000 currency, and this would be recorded on a block. So each block, for example, you'd have a transaction and it would capture the amounts of something, dates, times, addresses, and hash functions, which I'm not going to get into right now. And this would form a chain, which would be chronological. And because it's a chain, you can't go back and change former transactions or add things in. So you have to build on from the last chain. So you'd have transaction 1, 2, 3, continuing into infinity. All right, so a blockchain is a digital ledger. It is this ledger is, as you see here, but just represented digitally, and it's a chain of transactions that are captured. All right, so let's summarize that a little bit. So every verified transaction is called a block. Blocks of subsequent transactions are added together to form a chain. A digital ledger is formed with each block containing sent and receive addresses with the balances captured. And these are time-stamped, so it's going to have a date there. It's append only, which means you can only add to the last block. It's immutable, which means you can't go back and change things. All right, that's what makes it so secure. Compared to a traditional ledger, you might be able to go back and change transactions, which means it could be fraudulent. And due to its cryptographic nature, you're unable to edit chains once it's built. All right, and I'll go into the cryptography a bit later. So as I mentioned, it's not physical, but it's digital. And because it's digital, it's accessible from anywhere in the world via any electronic device. You don't need banks here. There are no third parties. It's decentralized. So this blockchain it exists on the internet. You have nodes that interact with the blockchain, and I believe there's over 10,000 nodes, and these nodes all interact with the blockchain and they can all access it. And miners, which I won't get into this course, actually verify these transactions, and they build the blocks and extend the length of the blockchain. Also, you cannot double spend or fabricate balances. Double spend has been a problem for digital currencies for a while now, where essentially you need to solve a problem and prevent people from double spending, so spending money they don't have. And blockchain solves that because it's append only and immutable. So you can only add things and you can't go back and change. So you cannot double spend. There's also a level of anonymity. So because you're just interacting with the blockchain, you're not leaving your personal details on the chain. There is a way to access it, but it's a level of anonymity. It's not complete anonymity, just a level. Okay. So what are cryptocurrencies then? One thing I also just want to mention about blockchain is that the technology is not new. It's been around for a while. People have been using blockchains in other systems, but the idea of using blockchain for cryptocurrencies is a new idea, which I will get into. So cryptocurrencies, the best way to explain what a cryptocurrency is to firstly tell you about cryptography. So cryptography is defined as communication in the presence of adversaries. All right. So if you think about adversaries, it's essentially an enemy. So you want to communicate with your allies and not let this important information that you want to communicate fall into their hands or allow it to be understood by them or deciphered. So it's around hiding this communication. So some examples over the last couple of millennia. So in ancient times, there was something called a Citale cipher, where people had to put in a code to actually access the communication in the little box. So the code would only be known by certain people, allies, and they would be able to access this information. Then in World War II, there was something called the Enigma machine. Perhaps some of you have heard about it. But this was fundamental in helping the Allies win the war, allowing them to decrypt German communications. There's actually a movie called The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch playing Alan Turing, and I recommend the movie. Very interesting if you want to know more about cryptography and the work that was involved with the Enigma machine. Now in the modern era, especially when it comes to cryptocurrencies, there's something called asymmetric cryptography, and that involves something called a public key and a private key. So I'm not going to go into this in this presentation, but it's definitely covered extensively in our course. So crypto, this word is derived from cryptography, the practice, study, and technique of safeguarding information and communication from third parties or adversaries. So cryptographic is something employing cryptography. That means a cryptocurrency is a digital currency using cryptography to verify transactions and safeguard assets on a blockchain. So this is what it enables authenticity, which means that your blockchain is reliable, your cryptocurrency is reliable because it is guarded by cryptography. Right. So the authenticity is established via miners who are verifying transactions that get built on the blockchain. And your data on the blockchain is also protected via cryptography, via private and public keys on blockchains. So that might be a little bit overwhelming to share with you now. We cover this a lot more in the course where you can understand it a lot better. So I think the take-home message for crypto is that there's cryptography. So there's codes and puzzles, complicated puzzles that guard your currencies and cryptocurrencies. All right, that means not everyone can access it. So there's also something called a crypto asset, which is essentially a digital asset using cryptography to verify transactions on a blockchain. So if you want to get technical, a cryptocurrency is a currency safeguarded by cryptography that you use as a medium of exchange. And a crypto asset is just an asset where you think of other traditional assets like stocks and property that are also guarded by cryptography, but you don't really use it for transactions or a medium of exchange. You hold it because it's a representation of value. I often use the two terms crypto asset and cryptocurrency interchangeably, but don't stress too much on that one. Just remember, cryptocurrencies are safeguarded by cryptography. Okay, so let's continue by talking about what Bitcoin is. So we covered blockchain, we define that it's a digital ledger, records transactions, and it safeguards it and protects it using cryptography to create cryptocurrencies. So what is Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is considered the first cryptocurrencies, and there's a very important name, Satoshi Nakamoto. So Satoshi Nakamoto is considered the creator of Bitcoin, often shown using the picture on the top right. But the funny thing about the name Satoshi Nakamoto is that it's actually a pseudonym. No one knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. It might be a he, she, or it could even be a group of people. People are leading towards defining it as a community or a group of people or an institution that created Bitcoin just because it's so elegant yet complex. And it first came about through a white paper, which is basically a paper defining how something works, called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And this was uploaded on the internet, I think, in 2009. And this was the first time cryptocurrencies was actually presented to the world. And Satoshi Nakamoto was quite passionate about coming up with a solution to combat inflation and reckless government handling of fiat currencies. And the key points that Satoshi Nakamoto highlighted in her or their paper was that Bitcoin was to be transparent and open source. So transparent and open source, which means that anyone can access the blockchain, view the blockchain, and also the code for Bitcoin is widely available, accessible, and editable. In the sense that it's editable, Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency, and people that use the code for Bitcoin to create their own cryptocurrencies. So when we mention things like Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, Dogecoin, those are all spin-offs from Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, and they're commonly referred to as altcoins, so alternative coins. Any cryptocurrency that is not Bitcoin is considered an altcoin. All right, and they have spawned because the code for Bitcoin is open source. Bitcoin is completely decentralized. No single institution, bank, or government controls the currency, which means that the bad decisions and reckless rules and laws from governing bodies do not influence the price or the amount of Bitcoin in circulation. We mentioned hyperinflation and the reckless spending or printing of money earlier. That can't happen with Bitcoin because the amount of Bitcoin in circulation, by circulation I mean the amount ever available at a certain point, is capped at 21 million. There can never be more Bitcoin in circulation than 21 million. So people can't just print more, which will decrease the value of the Bitcoin. Also, the actual value of Bitcoin is determined by the users. So the people that buy Bitcoin and use Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, they determine the value and peg the value of that, not governments. And I mentioned all cryptocurrencies are spin-offs of Bitcoin, these altcoins, and when they spin off from another blockchain, it's called a fork. All right, if you can think about like a fork in the road, a split. And so a fork is essentially a change in blockchain protocol, essentially creating a new blockchain. So consider Bitcoin, the currency. Typically, Bitcoin, the currency, is written using a small b. And when you write Bitcoin with a large B, you're talking really about the Bitcoin blockchain. So looking at just this Bitcoin blockchain, it was the first time a cryptocurrency was created using the blockchain, and people interact with this Bitcoin blockchain to record transactions for Bitcoin. All right, so you would have separate blockchains then. For altcoins, for example, Ethereum has its own blockchain called ERC20, and that handles transactions just for Ethereum. So there's separate blockchains for separate cryptocurrencies that don't all exist on the same blockchain. All right, and Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency using the Bitcoin blockchain. Okay, so I mentioned only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist, and so far 19 million have been mined. I mentioned earlier that miners are responsible for adding blocks to the blockchain, and also mentioned that each transaction is on a block. So if miners add blocks to a blockchain, they're essentially the ones who verify transactions. And you need to consider what is the incentive for these miners to work. So when they verify a transaction, they receive something called a block reward. They receive a small amount of Bitcoin. Currently, I believe the block reward is 6.25 Bitcoin, which is actually quite a bit. And also mentioned cryptography earlier, that validating transactions by miners is a form of cryptography. So they safely verify transactions by solving these cryptographic problems or puzzles. Then they verify the transaction, then they receive a reward. Okay, and maybe a question is, why is not everyone mining? It's because miners need to compete with each other to get the reward. Only the miner that solves the cryptographic puzzle receives the reward. So you need quite a hefty piece of hardware and computer equipment called a rig to actually do this mining process. It also requires a large amount of power, electricity, to do that, so that's not very viable in South Africa. Okay, so only 19 million Bitcoins have been mined so far, and it's going to be capped at 21 million. And basically on the rate of mining and block rewards that are being released, the last Bitcoin will only be mined in 2140. So still a while till we reach that, but the block rewards are decreasing every couple of years. So that's decreasing as we get to 2140. So that's why it's going to be such a long time until we reach that point. So, contrary to popular belief, you can actually own fractions of Bitcoin. So some people may think, wow, Bitcoin is worth $40,000 US. I can never afford a Bitcoin. That's simply not true. You can buy fractions of a Bitcoin. So we measure fractions of Bitcoin in something called Satoshis. That's to honor the name Satoshi Nakamoto. So the smallest fraction we have at the moment is a 100 millionth of a Bitcoin is 1 Satoshi. So that's 8 decimal places. That's 10 to the minus 8. So that's quite a small amount. So I can't do that right now, but maybe if you want, you can calculate the current price of Bitcoin divided by 100 million and see how much that is worth. So I don't know if anyone wants to do that, but 1 Satoshi, how much that is worth in dollars or rands. So something that's also very important is we can also measure cryptocurrencies against Bitcoin in Satoshis. So if like, for example, Ethereum is worth X amount of dollars, Bitcoin is worth X amount of dollars, on exchanges, you can also equate cryptocurrencies together, and then you actually measure that in Satoshis. And I think that makes it very practical, because you know that the price of Bitcoin is actually much higher than a lot of other cryptocurrencies. You need to actually measure it in fractions in Satoshis to make it practical. All right. So I've mentioned the fractions. I also mentioned the difference between Bitcoin, capital B, is really the blockchain. If people write Bitcoin capital B, they're referring to the blockchain ecosystem, and Bitcoin small b is the currency. But don't take it too seriously. I often use Bitcoin with small b and big B interchangeably. Okay, so let's look at some of our courses and products at CrypTogether. So this is currently what we have at the moment. So we have our first course, which is the Bitcoin Breakthrough, Introduction to Bitcoin and Cryptocurrencies for Absolute Beginners. On the next slide, I'll have a look at the curriculum so you can see exactly what's in the course. But really, this course is a step-by-step beginner-friendly course to help you understand the basic fundamentals of crypto, from the blockchain revolution and the invention of Bitcoin to the advent of Ethereum and smart contracts. And we also include quite an extensive practical guide on buying, storing, and trading your Bitcoin safely. We also offer coaching. At the moment, we have 45-minute one-on-one coaching sessions available. So you will be able to choose the topic, so you can let us know beforehand exactly what you want to be coached on, and also gives you an opportunity to ask questions to our coaches. So we can have any topics ranging from cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, trading, investments, and even technological or practical questions. We also have a limited time bundle available for $99, which includes the basic crypto introduction course and a one-on-one coaching session which saves you about $29. So they will give you a single coaching session and also allow you lifetime access to our course, the Bitcoin Breakthrough. Okay, something also to mention is with all our courses, including the coaching session, it allows you access to our site community section. It's almost like a forum where you can interact with other students, and also allows you to interact with CrypTogether. You will also have access to our Telegram channel, where you will have instant access also to our CrypTogether coaches. So that's lifetime access, which gives you access to the course, then also our community and Telegram channel. Curriculum. So some of the things we've been covering today, maybe in not as much detail as we would in the course. So the rules of crypto, how money works, blockchain and Bitcoin. Still a lot of detail. For example, how does Bitcoin work? And something that's also very important, I think, for especially absolute beginners is crypto security. How do you look after your cryptocurrencies, and why does cryptography, and how does it protect your assets? We'll also explain how addresses work, where you need to send addresses, send cryptocurrency between addresses to actually move your cryptocurrencies. And we'll also share some resources and tools. Then we also cover exchanges in detail, what wallets are, more personal security to look after your cryptocurrencies. We'll also introduce you to Ethereum in this course, which is extremely important to blockchain technology because of the introduction of smart contracts. Then some applications of Ethereum, something called proof of stake, which is very different from proof of work, which is what Bitcoin uses. And essentially, proof of work is a system that miners use to verify transactions. All right, then chapter 3 will be the very practical section, which will show you how to move your cryptocurrencies around. So how to purchase it on an exchange, how to move it to a wallet, how to use something called decentralized exchanges to also purchase cryptocurrencies. Then also some more detail on using Luno. And in the next section, I'll actually show you how to buy your first Bitcoin on Luno. So I think it's covering all the things you need as a beginner getting into cryptocurrencies. And this is our first course available at the moment. Our next course will actually be called Crypto Street Smart. What that course is going to teach you is basically how to be smarter around your Bitcoin, especially how to identify and avoid scams and shady deals. What we're also going to teach you is a bit more about other altcoins, and you'll start to gain a good understanding and broad understanding of what altcoins are out there, what problems they're trying to fix, and what value they add. So as you go about through your crypto journey, you can understand the industry a lot better. We'll also be looking at very basic trading, so you'll understand exchanges a little bit better and how to navigate it. Then we'll have a course early next year which covers advanced trading. Okay, since we're going to go to Luno and try to buy some Bitcoin, I'll just explain to you what an exchange is, and I've been using the term quite a bit. So I'm sure most of you have heard of traditional stock exchanges, for example, the JSE. So an exchange is where you go to exchange an asset, essentially. For the JSE, that would be stocks and bonds, etc. But for a crypto exchange, it's you go in there to exchange cryptocurrencies. So in this sense, for cryptocurrencies, our exchanges are online. They're online marketplaces, and they have automated matching between buyers and sellers. So you don't have to approach someone individually to trade a cryptocurrency. This is done automatically on an exchange. So what would happen is you would submit an order to the exchange. If you want to buy or sell, you would say how much you want to buy or sell, and you would say at what price you're willing to buy or sell at. Okay, and then what would happen is this would be submitted into something called an order book. An order book is a queue of buys and sells, and your order would be sitting on the order book until fulfilled, which would mean there is a match made with a buyer or seller who is willing to purchase a certain amount of volume at the price that you stipulated. And these exchanges transact according to trading pairs. So, for example, you would say on Luno in this case, you want to buy Bitcoin at a certain amount of South African Rand. So that would be a trading pair. BTC ZAR. So you notice this three letter abbreviation BTC, that is short for Bitcoin. That is the ticker symbol for Bitcoin. If you had to search BTC on an exchange, you would come up with Bitcoin and you'd be shown the available trading pairs. ETH is the ticker for Ethereum. So BTC Ethereum is a trading pair for Bitcoin Ethereum. So if you wanted to trade Bitcoin for Ethereum, you would enter that trading pair and you stipulate the volume and the price. Then there would also be, for example, USD BTC, which is USD, United States dollar, versus Bitcoin ticker. So these trades happen real time, typically on an exchange. So it's not something you submit overnight, then you get your order fulfilled the next day. It can happen right in front of you in that moment, or there will be just a short delay while you're waiting for a match for your order. And a very important part of exchanges is that a lot of the price movements are visualized via charts and trends, and you can actually view this on over different time frames. So this allows you to see the price movements and price actions, and this is where traders get involved, where they use technical analysis and fundamental analysis to determine what to buy and when to buy. And most exchanges also offer advanced trading tools and instruments, but for a beginner this isn't really important. And exchanges are not charities, they are there to make money. So they charge you transaction fees for their services. So when you make a buy or sell, they take a small amount of that to go into their coffers. And crypto can also be purchased peer-to-peer via these platforms. So you can buy on a literal exchange with other people via the order book, or you can actually buy it from the company themselves, or the company would link you with other persons where you submit your buy or sell to them, and then you would transact directly with them. So often this makes it a lot easier for beginners, but there might be a slightly higher transaction fee associated with it. Okay, so on this screenshot, I think it kind of summarizes what I've just been talking about. So from block number 1 on the top left, this is essentially the market overview by trading pair. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry here, but exchanges offer lots of trading pairs. This will allow you to navigate on which one you want to look at. And in this screenshot it's basically a typical look of an exchange. And this one in particular is looking at the exchange pair Ethereum, Bitcoin, ETH, BTC. Block number 2 is a candlestick price chart where you can see the price movements. Number 3 is the buy order book where you can see all the buy orders. So this is what people are willing to buy at, a price and a volume. Then you have sell orders in number 5. It's just the selling order book. Pair number 4 is where you would put in your buy order or your sell order. So you would say how much of a certain cryptocurrency you want to buy or sell, and then also you dictate the price. Then block number 6 is the personal orders and trade history. So you can see a history of your transactions. Okay, and we're going to go into a lot more detail in the next course when we get to basic trading. Okay, so buying on Luno. So what is this Luno thing I keep saying? So Luno is a cryptocurrency exchange, as I've just been talking about. Luno has been active since 2013, and it's facilitated more than 21 billion USD worth of transactions on its exchange for customers in over 40 countries. So quite well established, and they have a local presence in South Africa, which is great for us. And Luno was the first exchange to launch in Africa. It provides an easy to use app, a secure wallet, and a range of features. But this is their description, that they provide a secure wallet. But something spoken about in the course is that you need to have access to something called a private key for you to be able to call something a secure wallet. So to the best of my knowledge, you cannot actually access the private key, so it's not actually a wallet. So please keep that in mind, that it's actually an exchange, not a wallet. Purchases can be made through the exchange or directly from Luno at an extra cost. Luno also offers a savings wallet that earns interest. You can make direct bank deposits to Luno. This is why I've chosen Luno to be the exchange to demonstrate to you today. So this is an alternative to two international exchanges called Binance and Huobi. Something I need to mention that's quite important. Very recently, the South African Reserve Bank has said that it is illegal to purchase cryptocurrencies using credit cards from on international exchanges. And a lot of South African banks, I know ABSA, FNB, and Standard Bank have actually blocked your credit cards from doing this. So I'm still waiting to see a legal challenge against this claim to the South African Reserve Bank because I don't think it's lawful. But anyway, that's what's been said at the moment. So if I'm going to leave it up to you to decide if you'd like to do this on Binance and Huobi, it's completely your decision. But for now, I want to comply to the rules that have been laid out. So instead, we will use a bank deposit to purchase from Luno, which is a local exchange. So completely lawful according to the South African Reserve Bank. The reason for this rule, if you're wondering, is because we have a statutory allowance of 1 million rand to use for foreign investment or to send outside of the country. That's 1 million rand per annum. And apparently using your credit card should or does not typically count as this investment, but because you're using cryptocurrencies or using your card to buy cryptocurrencies, it should, according to the Reserve Bank. So the easiest way for them to get around this is just to say that it's unlawful and get the banks to comply with this. So it's a unfortunate rule just for this country that we have that statutory allowance that's stopping us from actually buying cryptocurrencies on international exchanges using our credit cards. However, what they said is legal is to use bank deposits on these international exchanges, but often it's not practical and not allowed at this point on the exchange perspective. But hopefully this will change. I know Binance and Huobi are actually investigating ways to allow South Africans to purchase using bank deposits on their exchanges. Okay, so back to Luno. Luno can be accessed via your browser or a downloadable app via the App Store or Google Play. So only a few coins are available to trade at the moment. I know there's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, USDC, and Bitcoin Cash. Whereas the bigger exchanges such as Binance and Huobi will have a lot more coins available, often thousands. And a common strategy I know that people do is they buy crypto on Luno, then they would send this to Binance and Huobi to buy altcoins. But unfortunately, the South African Reserve Bank has said this is also unlawful, which I don't agree with, but I'm still waiting for a legal challenge. But for us as absolute beginners, I think it's perfectly fine and safe to buy crypto on Luno as it's a local exchange and you only want perhaps Bitcoin or Ethereum at this point. Okay, so let's get practical. So setting up a Luno account, you can scan this QR code to begin the sign up process. So I'll allow you some time now if you'd like to do that. To scan a QR code, what you need to do is you open up your phone, you open the camera app, and all you do is you hover then the camera lens over the QR code. There will be a pop-up saying web page where you have to tap to go to the website. So you would click that and you would access it this way to start your journey, and then the pop-up on the right would come up where you just click get started. Now the cool thing with Luno is if you join via this link, you will earn 25 Rand worth of Bitcoin. That's free just for signing up. Then you would also get your own invitation code. Then if you share this with anyone else and they sign up using your code, they can also receive 25 Rand worth of Bitcoin, and you will get the same just by getting a friend to sign up. Okay, but just the one catch is that you need to spend at least 500 Rand on the first transaction to get that benefit. Typically, if you're asking how much you should be spending, most people say around 100 USD to get enough value, considering that there is going to be some transaction costs on an exchange. So 100 USD is about 1,500 Rand, but it's completely up to you how much you would like to spend. Okay, so as I said, there's also an app available. Scanning this, I think, will take you directly to the browser Luno. So you can sign up via there, or you could just go to your Play Store or Google Play to actually download the app if you prefer to do it that way. Okay, so when you start the app for the first time, you'd have to sign up. So you would sign up with an email address, create a password, and then you would have to verify your mobile number. So remember to also verify your email address. They will send you an email where you'd have to click verify. Then you will also be asked to create a 4-digit numerical PIN. So this PIN you would have to input whenever you need to authorize a transaction. So there's a little bit of security there. If your account had to be hacked, they would also have to know your PIN to actually move any cryptocurrency around. Okay. If anyone wants to go through this sign up process right now, just type in the chat for me to slow down or go back to a certain step, and we can wait for you or assist you if you have any challenges. All right. For step 3, something very important when it comes to any financial institution is that there's something called a KYC process. This is short for Know Your Customer. So you need to share some personal details with the financial institution. This is to combat money laundering and fraud. It's very normal for any financial institution that you need to share this information with them. Okay, so for Lino's KYC process, you need to put in your personal details and your ID number. Then there's something where you need to confirm your identity. This involves taking a photo of your ID document and then taking a selfie and submitting this. So this process normally doesn't take too long. It can happen in a couple of minutes, or it may take a few hours, but there's a person on the other end at Lino is actually going to check this information, make sure that you're an authentic human being and all your details and your ID documents are actually authentic. Once they approve that, you'll get a notification saying your account has been verified, and that would allow you to continue with your cryptocurrency purchases. All right, I mentioned that depositing via a bank transfer to Luno is the most efficient way at the moment to actually buy crypto on Luno. So how you would do this after you complete your registration and the KYC process, when you open the app for the first time, all you have to do is click the deposit button. After you click the deposit button, you then be asked if you want to do an instant EFT with PayU or bank transfer. Please choose bank transfer. I believe it's the easiest. All right, so that's really just 2 clicks. Then you select how much you want to deposit. You would typically select ZAR if you're in South Africa. Keep in mind that the minimum amount is R1 and the maximum is 10 million. If you have 10 million, you'll be my guest. Go ahead and do that. Otherwise, put in whatever you're comfortable with. So very important note is that you need a reference code when you deposit, as you know that there's going to be a receiver's reference whenever you do a bank transfer. So when you create that transfer on the bank, on your banking app, whatever it may be, you need to input this reference code. So there's a little reminder on the app after you select next for your deposit. Then on the top of the next screen, you will see a receiver's reference that will pop up. Please don't copy the one you see here, copy the one that you see on your app, and you'll put that into your banking app. So you click deposit, put in the amount, get the reference code, then you proceed to your banking app, create the deposit with the amount that you want to send to Luno, put in the receiver's reference, and then submit your transaction through the bank. All right, so that typically also doesn't take very long. So you can see on the right in this example, you get the receiver's reference, you'll have the banking details and the amount that you're going to send. So you basically notify Luno that you're going to be sending this money, and then they send you the receiver's reference that you put into your banking app. All right. So now we're assuming that you've put some fiat money from your bank deposit into Luno. You need to select the crypto that you want to buy. So on your home screen, so in your instance, you will probably have ZAR that's worth a lot more than 2 cents as a local currency. But now you want to exchange that for a cryptocurrency. So you can see in this account I'm showing you, there's already Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, and then there's Litecoin that's been added as a potential thing to buy. So Bitcoin might be there by default. If you do not see Bitcoin, you need to click Add a Wallet. And then you select Once Off. All right. And then what they would do is you would purchase directly from Luno, peer to peer. And it's a very easy transaction. You get your Bitcoin instantly. Alternatively, if you're feeling a bit braver and you understand how exchanges work, you could just click home on the bottom left of the screen once you have fiat, and you can actually visit the Luno exchange. And then you can click buy to place an order for your cryptocurrency. So for first-time users, I suggest you use the peer-to-peer method, using click once off purchase directly from Luno. And if you're feeling a bit braver, then go click home and go to the exchange to buy it that way. All right. So let's wrap up the webinar. Right. So I did mention that there would be a discount for any of our future students that attend this webinar. Your coupon code is at the bottom of the slide. However, this is only valid for today. So apologies to all of you on YouTube, but I hope you enjoy the course nonetheless. You can access and review our courses and products at the link at the top of the slide, and also you can scan the QR code if you want to be taken there with your phone. Also, we did mention that there would be a free ebook available. You can also find this ebook in the form of a glossary under our course Bitcoin Breakthrough, Introduction to Bitcoin and Cryptocurrencies for Absolute Beginners. What you need to do is select the course, click free preview, then look at chapter 1. You will find the glossary there. So thank you very much for attending the webinar. I certainly hope you learned something, and hopefully we will see you as a student in one of our courses. See you soon. Bye.